We are live on the dot, 1 o'clock on the dot. If you're joining in, just tell me if you can hear me. Let me just share this live to a few places. We are live on the dot, 1 o'clock on the dot. All right, I guess you can hear me. Just heard myself. So I'll begin in a few. So begin in a few. Let me just share this a few places. As you log in, as you join in, just share it to your class group, your WhatsApp, and then we'll begin. All right, good. So we have a good set. So welcome everybody. Hello. Welcome. Welcome. Drop your school. So we'll begin right now. As you can see, I have some questions on the screen, and today we're looking at some coordinate geometry and functions questions. Just like what we did yesterday, we're looking at 2021 all the way to 2026, all the questions on coordinate geometry. And we'll just see a pattern of how these questions can come. So as long as you can answer these questions, you should be good to go for coordinate geometry. So as you jump in, just share the live, share it. React. I don't know how you react, however you react, so that it can be pushed and so on. Share it to your class group, share it on your WhatsApp status, share it on Instagram, Facebook, wherever you kids are these days, TikTok. So let's go. Let's get the ball rolling. So let's start off nice and easy. Drop your school as well, so you can see what school you're from. All right, so let's get the ball rolling. Let's see who will stay until the end. Remember, yesterday we had a beautiful session. Hopefully today will be the same as well. So let's go. The first one says, remember, these are all the number fours from 2021 all the way to 2026. Hopefully we'll reach all the way to 2026. Hopefully reach to the end. All right. So the first one, so if you have a past paper book, you can work along with me, and also you can work the question from the screen. So the first one says a straight line L, whose equation is 3x plus 2y is equal to C, passes through the point -2, 8. Show that the value of C is 10, and this is going for 1 mark. So from the time you see 1 mark, you don't have to do any big fancy work there. So let me write it in a nice blue so that we can see the separation. So show that the value of C is 10. So let me write A. So the equation that they gave us is 3x plus 2y is equal to C. And we see that this equation passes through the point -2, 8. So this means -2, 8. This means that in this equation, the value of x is -2 and the value of y is 8. So to get our answer to what C is, all we do is substitute that into the equation. So instead of 3 times x, this will give us 3 times -2 plus 2 times y, which is 8, and that will be equal to c. So we just work this out. 3 times -2 will give us a -6. 2 times 8 will give us 16, and that is equal to c. So -6 plus 16, that would give us a positive 10, so c is equal to 10. And that is your answer for 1 mark there, nice and easy. All right, let's ease up on the conversation. Let's focus on what is going on the screen, right? So that is that one. The next one, determine. So let me draw a line here. Next, they want us to determine the gradient of line L. So here's the thing. When you're dealing with equation, or when you're dealing with a straight line, equation of a straight line, everybody by now, you should know the general form for the equation of a straight line. Let me ask the chat. Let me see who get it first. What is the general form for the equation of a straight line? Let me see who get it first, and I'll shout out that person. General form. This is something that you have to know for the exam. Let me see. I see somebody try. Good. Stephen has it y equal mx plus c. Stephen was forced, right? So this is the general form for the equation of the straight line. Let me write it right here. Y equal mx plus c. And we know for this equation, we know what is m and what is c. What is the name given to m? M is also known as the what? Begins with G. M is known as the what? Let me see. Who will drop it for us? M is known as the, come on, folks. Quick, quick, quick. M is known as the, let me see. All right. All right, so Limpy has the answer. Limpy. M is known as the gradient, as Limpy percent. And C is known as the y-intercept. The y-intercept, the part of the line that crosses the y-axis. So whenever you're writing the equation of straight line, those are the two important things that you need. You need to write it in this form in which M is a number and C is a number as well. So let's try to write this equation in that form. So we'll know the thing that they give us is 3x plus 2y is equal to c, and we found c to be 10. So now we have to write it in this form, which is y equal mx plus c. So y just has to be the subject of the formula. So we make y the subject, so we take over this 3x. This 3x is adding. So we take it over to subtract. So we'll have 2y is equal to 10, subtract 3x. And we want to put this minus 3x in front, right? Because the equation is y equal mx plus c. The term with x is in front. So we will just switch it around. And we just write 2y is equal to, so we just shift this 3 around and we put negative 3x. And then this has to be plus 10. That's when we shift around. The sign in front should remain. And then we take over the 2. 2 is multiplying, so we take it over, it will divide. So we'll have y is equal to negative 3x plus 10, all divided by 2. And we can rewrite this. This 2 is over both the 3x and the 10. So we can rewrite this as y is equal to negative 3 over 2x plus 10 over 2. All right, because the 2 is over everything. So they ask us to determine the gradient for 2 marks. So the gradient is the number in front of the x term. So the gradient would be, in this case, the number in front of the x is negative 3 over 2. Since we can say the gradient is equal to negative 3 over 2. And that would be our answer for 2 marks. Nice and easy 2 marks. So if you see somebody ask a question in the chat and you know the answer, reply to them. I may not see it. So the last one, the line with equation 3x plus 4x, 3x plus 4y is equal to 8 intersects the line y at the point T. Determine the coordinates of the point T. So we have another line and it intersects this line. So when two lines intersect each other and they ask you to determine the coordinates of the intersection, this is basically asking you to solve the two equations. Solve it as a, you can either solve it as a simultaneous equation or, we're basically asking to find the value of x and the value of y for the two equations. So we can set this up as a nice simultaneous equation. So the first equation that we have is this one at the top, which is 3x plus 2y is equal to c, and we know c is 10. This is the first equation. And they say that this equation intersects with the other one, which is 3x plus 4y is equal to 8. And they want us to find the coordinates of t, which would be in the intersection. In other words, it basically tells us to solve this as a simultaneous equation, solve these two equations. So we'll solve this as a simultaneous equation. So we know it's a simple one. So there's no need, we'll use the elimination method. So we see these two numbers are already the same, so we don't need to multiply by anything. So we can just already subtract the like terms. So we can subtract these two, and subtract these two. So we'll set this up nice. So we'll have 3x minus 3x plus 2y, and we minus the 4y from that. And that will be equal to 10, subtract the 8. And then we can work this out. 3x subtract 3x would give us 0, so that would go. 2 subtract negative 4, that would be a negative 2y. And that would be equal to 10 subtract 8, that would be 2. Hence, the value of y would be equal to, so the negative 2 is multiplying, and we take it over, it will divide, so we'll have 2 divided by negative 2. Hence, y would be equal to 2 divided by negative 2 is a negative 1. So our value of y is a negative 1. And then we got to find our corresponding value of x. So we can take this value of y and we can substitute it in. We can substitute it in either equation 1 or 2, it doesn't matter. So let's substitute y equal negative 1 in equation 1. So we'll have 3x plus 2 times y. Instead of y, we'll have negative 1. That is equal to 10. 3x, 2 times negative 1 will give us a negative 2, and that is equal to 10. So 3x will be equal to this 2 is subtracting, and we take it over, it will add. So this will be 10 plus 2. So 3x is equal to 12. And the 3 is multiplying the x, so we take it over, it will divide. So we'll have x is equal to 12 divided by 3. X is therefore equal to 4. So this is our value for x, this is our value for y. Hence, they ask us to find the coordinates of the point T. So hence, T would be equal to, the coordinates for T would be 4, negative 1. This is xy. Xy is how the coordinates go. 4, negative 1. So coordinates for T. And that is how you get this answer. So we can do it with the matrix way if you want. You can use the matrix method. That is okay as well. They didn't specify which method to use. As you comment, share the live to your class group, share the live to your friend on WhatsApp, share the live to anybody writing. And anybody writing CSEC, everybody want. Let's try to give everybody the best chance in passing this exam. All right, so you never know, this will help you in the exam. So, and also react to the video so that YouTube recommends it. So that is that question. So the important thing that I want us to learn here is The general form for the equation of straight line is y equal mx plus c. And whenever you're writing whenever you're writing an equation of straight line, all you need to find is a value for the gradient and a value for c. And you'll see that further down when we look at some other questions. So let's carry on. So those of you that now join us, we're looking at all of the number 4 questions from 2021 to 2026. All of the number 4. You'll see how the different ways in which they come. So that's that. So let's carry on. So this one here now, so this one says the diagram below shows the graph of L and two other lines, x equal -1 and y equal 5. On the graph above, draw the lines y equal -1 and shade the region that satisfies the inequality below. All right, so they give us 3 lines here. We have this line. We have this line here, which is y equal 5. And we have this line, which is x equals -1. And we have this line here, which is line L. Did it tell us what line L is? Oh, this is line L. This is line L. This same line that we have. This is line L. So we know line L would be this one. Well, line L would be here. All right, so we can write in that. So that would be 3x plus 2y is equal to 10. That is that line. So they want us to draw the line y equals x minus 7. They want us to draw in that line. So this is how you draw in that line. So the line that we want to draw is y equals, let me write it over here, y equals x minus 1. So they want us to draw in that line. So this is how we draw. When you want to draw a line, all you need is 2 points for the line. All you need would be 2 points for the line. So 2 coordinates you need. So what I would advise persons to do, just select any value for x and any value for y, and that will give you 2 points on the line. All right, remember this line will go on and on throughout this entire thing. So all you need is 2 points. You connect the 2 points and you extend the line throughout. So what we can do first, we can find the value of y, the corresponding value of y when x is equal to 0. So we'll have y is equal to, so we replace x with 0 minus 1. So y will be equal to -1, because 0 minus 1 is a -1. So the coordinate here for this first one, the xy coordinate, we know x is equal to 0 and y is equal to -1. So that is 1 point on the line as well. So we go 0 across, -1 down. So this is already 1 point on the line. And then we can find another point. So since we made x 0, let's make y 0 now and find the corresponding x value. So instead of y equals x minus 1, we'll have 0 is equal to x minus 1. So we take over the -1, we'll have +1, 0 plus 1. So x would be equal to 1. So the corresponding value here, so x is equal to 1. And we see y is equal to 0. So 1, 0. So we go 1 across, 0 up. So this is the other point. So from the time you have 2 points on the line, it's easy to draw them. All we do is we connect these 2 points. And then you just use a ruler and you extend the points. And that is it for that line. All right, I probably extended a bit too much. All right, so we can write in that to be the line y equals x minus 1. All right, so I may have to do some banning of some persons. The 2 persons I'm looking at, so I will advise you to cease and desist or I'll ban you. All right, I want to give you a chance to correct yourself, you know yourself. Just keep the conversation and the things in the chat relating to the maths. All right. You can always, get each other's number and have a conversation. All right. So, so 2 persons give you a chance to correct yourself. So that is that line. So that is the first thing they ask us to do. Draw that line. So that is that line. Next thing they want us to do, shade the region that satisfies the inequality below. So we have 3 inequalities and we want to shade the region that basically intersects all 4 of these inequalities. And this is very easy to do. So the first one they want us to shade is x is greater than -1. X is greater than -1. So x is the line x is equal to 1 would be x is equal to -1 is this line. So to shade the region x is greater than -1 would be all the numbers greater than -1. And if you look at the -1 is here, all the numbers greater than -1 would be here, 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 here in this direction. So to shade this region, you just go in that direction. But here's the thing. Here's the thing where if we do this, if we shade it like this, it will make us hard to identify the region that intersects all of these inequalities. So a nice trick to do to help with that is to shade in the opposite direction so that you'll see the region that is left out. So we'll shade in the opposite direction. So we know originally we have to shade in this direction, but we'll shade in the opposite direction so that we'll see which region is left out when we finish shading. So I'll shade all here on this line. All right. This will help us to identify the region that links the inequalities. So that is that. That's the first one. The next one they want us is y is less than or equal to 5. So let's identify the line y is equal to 5. Where is that line? Y is equal to 5. So we see that line is right here. So that line is right there. So the line y is less than 5. All the numbers less than 5 would be all the numbers below here. All these numbers below here, that would be the correct region to shade. These are all the lines less than 5. However, I want to shade in the opposite direction because I want to see which region is left out so that I can see which region satisfies the inequality. So I'll shade in this direction. I'll shade in the opposite direction. All right. The next one they want us to shade is y is greater than or equal to x minus 1. So y is greater than or equal to x minus 1. So this one is slightly different now. This one is slightly different. We can't just identify, we know we're dealing with this line. We can't just look at this one and see that everything in this direction is that. Or you can see which region is the region that they want. You can already look at the graph and see which region we have to shade. So we can't just look at this one and decide which one to shade. We have to do something that we call a test. We have to test to see which is the region that satisfies this. So how do we do this test? So we know this is the line. So in order to decide to shade up or to shade down, we just select any point. Any point. Let's select up. Let's select any point up. Any point at up. So let's select this point here. And then we do a test to see if we substitute the values for that point inside the inequality, if it will be true. So this point that we select here is we go 3 across, 4 up, 3, 4. So we know this is x and this is y. So let's substitute these values into this inequality to see if it will be true. So we see y is equal to 4. So this would be 4 is greater than or equal to x minus 1. So this would be 3 minus 1, 3 minus 1. So 4 will be greater than or equal to 3 minus 1 is 2. So is this true? Is 4 greater than 2? Obviously, that is true. So this is telling us that the correct direction to shade would be up. That would represent the region that we want. However, because we want to see which region is left, because we want to see which region will satisfy all four of these inequalities, we shade in the opposite direction. So I'll use my blue and I'll shade in the opposite direction on the line, which is all here. I'll shade all here. And then last but not least, the line 3x plus 2y is less than or equal to 10. 3x plus 2y is less than? Yeah, less than or equal to 10. So less than or equal to 10. So once again, and that would be, where is that line? So that would be this line here. So once again, we have to do the test. We have to do the test to see if we light a shade down here or we'll shade up. All right. So let's do the test. So I already have a point chosen here. So let me choose that same point as well to see if I have to shade there. So let's see. So we know x is equal to 3. So we'll have 3 times 3. All right. So let me see what's going on in the comments. All right. All right. Good. 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 Anyways. Let's go. So plus 2 times y is 4. 4 is less than or equal to 10. So let's see if this is true. So 3 times 3 is 9, plus 2 4 is 8, is less than or equal to 10. 9 plus 8 is obviously 17, is less than or equal to 10. This is not true. So this is not true, so we can't shade in this direction at all. So that is not true. So let's use another point and test. Let's test over on this direction now. So this will be 1 across, 2 up. Let's test and see if that is true. So 3 times x in this case is 1, is x, this is y, plus 2 times y, which is 2, is less than or equal to 10. 3 ones 3, plus 2 twos 4 is less than or equal to 10. So this will be 3 plus 4 is 7, is less than or equal to 10. So that is true. So that means the correct way to shade, the correct way to shade would be in this direction here. However, I want to see the region that is left. So I'll shade in the opposite direction, which will be here. Let me just erase this here. So I'll shade all here. So I can see the region that is left would be all here. All right, so I'll shade in a nice red so we'll see. So this is the region that is left. So this is the region that we share for all the big fancy marks. So what I'll do now, I'll erase this here. So I'll erase all this, so I'll see the region that we want. And if you're thinking this is a lot of work, this went for a lot of marks. So this went for 3 marks. So hence you have to do that work. So that is the region that we shade for 3 marks. All right. That is the region. Make sure you don't go over. So that is the answer there for 3 marks. So the key thing you want to do here to decide which side to shade, you do something that we call a test. Test, you just select any point above or below, and if the when you substitute it into the inequality, if it satisfies the inequality, meaning when you read the inequality, it's true, you shade in that direction. But of course, if you want to shade a common region, you go in the opposite direction, so you'll see which part is left out. So let's carry on. So next one now. The graph below shows the line PQ. They told us to find the gradient of PQ. So you want to find the gradient of PQ. Nice and easy question, gradient. So in order to find gradient when you're given a graph, to find gradient, all you need to do is select any 2 points on this graph. It doesn't matter which 2 points you select, you'll get the same gradient. Because the gradient of a line is the same throughout. So you can select any 2 points. All right, and then we use the formula to find gradient. Let me work it right here. So we know gradient is represented by a common m. So the formula for gradient is the change in y. I always remember it like this. The change in y over the change in x. The change in y divided by the change in x. So change in y would be x1, x2 minus x1 over x2 minus, sorry, the change in y. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Some people may be thinking, what about if you put x1? Well, what about if you put y1 first? So the formula can also be y1 minus y2 all over x1 minus x2. It doesn't matter. Just make sure that, you know, if this is x2, the top here is y2. If this is y1, the bottom is y1. It doesn't matter which one you choose, right? Really and truly doesn't matter. So don't try to remember which one comes first. If it's x1 or, well, if it's y1 or y2. You know, just remember that the y goes at the top, x goes at the bottom. So let's go. I'll select any 2 points. So I'll choose this point right here. This looks like a nice point. So this is 3 across, 7 up. So this is 3, 7. Now I'll select this one right here as well. So this is 2 across and 5 up. So I can call this one x, I can call this one y, call this one x, call this one y. This is x1, y1, x2, y2. So I'll work that out now. So the gradient will be equal to y2 is 7, subtract y1, which is 5, all over x2, which is 3, subtract x1, which is 2. Hence the gradient would be equal to 7 subtract 5 would be 2 over 3 subtract 2 would be 1. Hold on, did I do everything correct? Let me see. Y2, is that 7, 3? Yeah, man. So the gradient here would be equal to 2. So the gradient is equal to 2. Nice and easy marks. So I can bring this down at the bottom here. So the gradient is equal to 2. Anybody work this one? I got 2. How are we looking, chat? How are we looking so far? Not seen any comments. Is it my thing? Not loading? How are we looking, chat? How are we looking? Talk to me. All right. So the next one, write down the equation of the line. Good. Write down the equation of the line PQ in the form y equal mx plus c. So as I said earlier in the video, y equal mx plus c. The important things that you need when you're writing the equation in this form, which is the general form, we need the gradient, we need the value of the gradient, and we need the value of the y-intercept. We don't need x and y because x and y can represent any point on the line. X and y, they will change. All right, let me throw this line here. This here will have another value for x and y. This will have another value. This will have another value. This will, and so the values of x and y will change. Right? We'll have an infinite number of x and y coordinates. So we don't put in that. We just need the gradient and the y-intercept. So you already found the gradient at the top here to be 2. And so all we need now, we need any x and y coordinate, and that will help us to find c, which is the y-intercept. But do we need to do all that? No, we don't need to do all of that because, you know, c is the y-intercept. C is the y-intercept, which means the part of the graph that crosses the y-axis. So this is the x-axis, this is the y-axis. So C will be the part that crosses this line here. So we see the part that crosses that line is simply 1. So C is equal to 1. So we know C is equal to 1, and we know M is equal to 2. So the gradient here would be y is equal to M, which is 2x, plus C, which is 1. And this is all you need. This probably went for 1 mark. Yeah, 1 mark. Nice and easy 1 mark there. So let's proceed. So let's proceed with function. This year, whatever this year is, they brought in some functions in at number 5. 5 you looking at? Yeah. Or number 4. So number 5 or number 4, let me see. Number 4, they brought in functions now. So let's look at some functions. I love functions. I don't know about you. Anybody else loves functions? Functions is my favorite topic in when I was going to school and even as a teacher. So let's go. Two functions f and g are defined as, we have f here and we have g here. So they want us to find g of -6. So I'll just take, whenever you're finding functions, it's basically whatever is inside of this bracket here, you're substituting that in whatever given function. You're replacing x with whatever is inside the bracket. Key thing, inside the bracket. So we know g of x, well, g of x is equal to this. So g of -6 would be equal to, so instead of 3 times x, we replace x with what is in this bracket. This would be 3 times -6 plus 2. So 3 times -6 is -18 plus 2. Hence, -18 plus 2 would be -16. So g of -6 is equal to that answer there. Right? Not so much as matrix, but yes, yeah, matrix. Matrix is matrix is there. I love matrix as well, but functions is the one that I love that. So next one, the inverse of the function g. And this went for 2 marks, probably the easiest 2 marks you'll ever get in CSEC. So we have to find inverse of g, so anyway, write back the function g. So g of x is equal to 3x plus 2. So there are some steps that you need to remember to find the inverse of the function, inverse of any function. Step 1 is you change, in this case, g of x to y. So you replace g of x with y. So this will be y is equal to 3x plus 2. That is step 1. Step 2, you interchange the x and y. All right, so I'll say you switch x and y. Wherever you have y, you put x. Wherever you have x, you put y. So instead of y here, you'll have x is equal to 3y plus 2. Then the last step, the big math step, my favorite step, we make y the subject. Regardless of what a function is, you make y the subject. So in order to make y the subject, we take over everything surrounding the y. So we take over this 2 for us. So this 2 is adding, we take it over, we'll subtract. So we'll have x subtract 2 is equal to 3y. Lastly, the 3 is multiplying the y. Take it over, it will divide. So we'll have x subtract 2 all divided by 3 is equal to y. Then the last step, you replace y with g inverse of x. So this is y is equal to x minus 2 all divided by 3. So this will simply be g inverse of x is equal to x minus 2 all divided by 3. And that is the answer there for that nice and easy 2 marks. So it's got to follow these steps here. And you're good to go with the inverse function. So let's push on. Next one, I want us to show that fg of x is equal to this here. And this is going for 3 marks. So from the time you see this 3 marks, you don't know, we got to do some work. Right? We got to do a lot of work here from the time you see 3 marks. And you see 3 marks, you know, you should either smile or frown because gotta do some amount of work. So let's see. So I want the function. Let me just write back the function. So I have the function f of x being equal to x squared minus 1 and g of x being equal to 3x plus 2. So I'll just bring this down to make it easy to reference. So I want to show that fg of x is equal to this. So when you see the word show, big man show, prove, and so on, that means whenever I finish working out this, I want to see this as the answer. I want to see this here as the answer when I finish finding that composite function. So what this is saying, this is telling me that I'm taking the function g, which is this function here, and I'm putting it inside the function f. I'm taking this here and I'm putting it inside of f. And how are you doing that? Wherever you have x in the function, in this case it's here, I'm replacing it with the function g. All right, so this will be equal to, instead of x squared, I'll have the function g, which is 3x plus 2 squared. And then I put back whatever is remaining for f, which is minus 1. And then I do my working, and this will, when I work it out, I will end up with this answer. So let's see. Remember, it's 3 marks though, so that means you got to do some amount of work. So let's see what is the trick to this, why it's so many marks. So yesterday we looked at algebra, so we should know to use the distributive law. That's why I stressed on the distributive law yesterday, because if you don't know to use it, you can't answer this question. You'll get this question wrong. So this will be 3x plus 2, and since it's squared, it will be 3x plus 2 multiplied by 3x plus 2. Then I put it minus 1 at the end here, and I use the distributive law. So I'll take the first term multiplied by everything in this bracket. So this will be 3x multiplied by 3x plus 2. And I take the second term multiplied by everything here again. So this will be plus 2 multiplied by 3x plus 2. And I put back the minus 1. And I work it out. 3x times 3x, 3 times 3 is 9. X times x will give us x squared. 3x times 2 will give us 3, 2, 6. So this is plus 6. And I put back the x. And 2 times 3x, that will give us plus 6x again. And 2 times 2 will give us a positive 4. And I put in the minus 1. And I work this out, 9x squared. So 6x plus 6x will give us 6x plus 6x will give us 12x. 4 minus 1 will give us plus 3. So I have this answer here. And the first thing I notice a 3 is outside here. I notice we have 2 factors of a quadratic. When you factorize a quadratic, it will look like this. But I see immediately 3 is outside here. And if I look at all 3 of these terms, I immediately see, because of this hint, I see 3 is a factor. 3 can go into all 3 of these terms. So immediately I can factor out the 3 to get this 3 here. So this will be, I factor out the 3 when I factor out 3, meaning I divide each term by 3. So when I pull out 3 from here, I will be left with 3x squared. When I pull out 3 from here, this will be left with 4x. When I pull out 3 from here, 3 divided by 3 will give us 1. And then now the 3 is already outside. So now I can factorize this bracket and I should end up with what I have here on this piece. So let me just do that factorization there. So I'll have 3x squared plus 4x plus 1. So I see this is a quadratic equation, a quadratic function. So I'll use the AC method to do here to factorize this. So I know A would be equal to 3, B is equal to 4, and C is equal to 1. So AC would be A times C, which is 3 times 1 will give us 3. And then I want a number that will add to give us 4. So I see immediately I don't have to go far. I can just say 3 plus 1 will give us 4. So the numbers the thing I'm substituting to replace this middle term here would be 3 plus 1. So this will be 3x squared plus 3x plus 1x, but we know we don't put back 1x, you can just say x plus 1. I pair off the brackets, and then I factorize each bracket. So I see in the first bracket, I see 3 is common. And then I see x is also common, so I factor out 3x from the first bracket, I'm left with x. Factor out 3x from the second bracket, I'll be left with plus 1. That 3x divided by 3x is simply 1. In the second bracket, I just see, we don't see anything common, so that we know a 1 is common there. So I factor out 1. When I factor out 1, that won't change anything, so I'll have x plus 1. To finalize, now I'll have 3x. I'll take what is outside the bracket and I put that in a bracket. So 3x plus 1 in one bracket and x plus 1 in another bracket. And hence I have the second part of what I have. So what I'll do, I'll say this is equal to 3. And then I factorize this, I'll end up with what I have here. So this will be 3x plus 1 and x plus 1. And that is how I show this here. And this will be QED. I can put QED at the end just so that you're done. And that is how you get that 3 marks. So when you see 3 marks, either you should be happy or you should be scared because you need to do some amount of work. They will not give you 3 marks just like that. Are we looking for this one? We cooked with this one or were we cooked? How was this one, chat? So next one says, hence solve the equation. Good. Love to see it. When are we revising on vectors and matrices? So you can revise on vectors and matrices anytime you want, right? I don't know when you are revising on vectors and matrices. Whenever you want, revise on it. If you're asking when I am coming to work vectors and matrices, I'm not sure. I'll have to see. But you can revise it anytime you want, right? I don't know. I don't know when you revise it. So heads solve the equation fg of x is equal to 0. So we know this is fg of x. So we know this is equal to 0. So all I'll do, I'll have 3 open bracket 3x plus 1 multiplied by x plus 1. And I know this is equal to 0. So they want me to solve this. So in order to solve this, I know the first thing I want to do is get rid of this 3. I take over this 3 to divide the 0. So that would just be 0 as well. So I'll end up with 3x plus 1 and x plus 1 is equal to 0. And then I just solve this like I solve a normal quadratic. I know I just equate both factors to 0. So this will be 3x plus 1 is equal to 0. And x plus 1 is equal to 0. And then I solve it. First, when I take over the 1, it will become minus 1. So I'll have 3x is equal to negative 1. And x is equal to negative 1 divided by 3. So that is my first value there for x. And the second one, x is simply equal to negative 1. That is my other value for x. And that is it there. Why is it plenty working with 3 marks? CSEC won't give you 3 marks just like that, right? So when you see 3 marks, expect that amount of work. But it's a combination of simple steps. Right? It's a combination of simple steps. All right, so let's carry on. So they did. So yesterday, why I did algebra for us is because, as you can see, algebra, we got a lot of algebra here. Distributive law, solve, factorizing, and so on. That is why algebra is so important. Right? That is why I started off with algebra yesterday. So if you did not look at that algebra video, make sure you go and watch at it and ensure you have a good understanding, a good grasp of what was done. All right, so let's carry on. So a line segment joins the point C, which is -6, -5, 6, and D, which is 7, 2. Calculate the midpoint of the line segment, CD. All right, so I need to calculate the midpoint. So the formula to find midpoint between 2 points. So midpoint is represented by the capital M, not common M, capital M. The formula is, since it's midpoint, it will be x1 plus x2 over 2. That'll be halfway of x, comma, y1 plus y2 over 2, comma, and that will give us the halfway of y, and this will give us the coordinates for the midpoint. So I can call this x, I can call this y, I can call this one x, I can call this one y, y1, y, x1, y1, x2, y2. So I'll have the midpoint being equal to x1 would be -5 plus x2, which is 7, all over 2, comma, y1, which is 6, plus y2, which is 2, all divided by 2. So the gradient, midpoint, why did I say gradient? The midpoint would be -5 plus 7 would give us a +2 over 2. And 6 plus 2 would give us 8 over 2. Hence, the midpoint would be 2 divided by 2 is 1. And 8 divided by 2 is 4. So the midpoint is 1, 4. Nice and easy. So the midpoint is 1, 4 for 2 marks. I think that was nice. That was easy. Some easy 2 marks, eh? All I need to do is remember the formula. Smile, smile when you see these kind of things. How are we looking, chat? How are we looking? How are we looking? You gotta tell me if you are cooking, you know. Find the gradient of the line segment CD. So they want us to find the gradient of the line segment CD. So the gradient, as we said earlier, the gradient is the change in y over the change in x. So the change in y would be y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. Or, as I said, you can have the gradient to be equal to y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's this or this, right? Cold sweat. All right. How many more days until the exam, though? Today is the 2nd of April. How many more days until the exam? So let's see. We already have the values for x1 and y1. So I'll write that here. So y2 would be 2, subtract y1, which is 6, all over x2, which is 7, subtract x1, which is -5. So the gradient here would be 2 subtract 6 would be a -4, all divided by 7 subtract a -5. This will actually turn into 7 plus 5. 7 plus 5 would be 12. Hence, I can say the gradient would be equal to, so 4 ones 4, 4 into 12 would be 3. So this is a -1 over 3 as the gradient. All right, so there's a common M, there's a big M, somebody said. All right. I see my student is in the chat. So Gitanjali is saying this is food. Big up to Gitanjali. Gitanjali, I don't see you. I don't see you. I don't see you. Don't see a comment before you delete. All right, so that is that number 2. So that is the gradient. That is the midpoint. So let's see what they cooking up with this, man. Because normally they don't just ask you to find simple things like the midpoint and the gradient for no reason at all. Let's see what they're cooking up. They're cooking up something at the bottom here. Let me see. And now they drop it on us. Determine the equation of the perpendicular bisector of CD. All right, so this was a big jump, right? Big jump to this here. So they pamper us nice at the top. Make us feel nice, and then they drop this one on us. But it's easy though. This one is easy, right? Perpendicular bisector. So the important thing you want to look at is the word perpendicular and the word bisector. So two keywords because of the things that we found above. Now, whenever you see, this is a hint, whenever you see CXC or any exam, or CXC asks you to find simple things like these here, like the gradient and the length segment, just know you will have to use this in an answer, use this answer that you got in one of the questions below. Because this is very easy to find, this is straightforward. And it will not just give you to find something straightforward just like that. You will have to use it at some point. So that will guide your thinking. So hence determine the equation of the perpendicular bisector. So this is basically telling you determine the equation of another line that is perpendicular to the one that we have above. So when I say perpendicular bisector, if you have a line like this and you have a bisector, that means the line is passing through the middle of the line, right? The middle of the other line. So the middle would mean at this point of the line, we will have the coordinates of the midpoint. The coordinates of the midpoint, because it's perpendicular bisector. Bisector means it goes straight through the middle. So at this point, we'll have the midpoint. And we already found the coordinates for the midpoint above to be 1, 4. So that 1, 4 there, that is a point on the line that we want to find. And we also found the gradient of this line to be -1/3. The gradient is -1/3. And whenever two lines are perpendicular, the gradients share a relationship. So for example, if the force line is -1/3, the gradient for that, then the gradient for the line that we want now, let me see, let me ask the chat, let me see who's sharp. What is the gradient for that line? If the gradient for this line that we want is -1/3, and they say another line is perpendicular, what would be the gradient for that other line? Let me see who's cooking. Let me see who's cooking for real. Hello, Jaden. Let me see, Jaden. Hi, Jaden. Jaden got a fancy name there. Let me see who's cooking. Who's cooking quick? I see. I see Wajid. Wajid attempting. I don't see the correct answers yet. Still don't see the correct answers yet. All right. Shalila. All right, Shalila is correct. The gradient would be the negative reciprocal, right? Meaning you flip the gradient, you flip this here, so this will become 3 over 3/1, and then you change the sign. So since this is a negative, it will become a positive. So 3/1 is the same as 3. So the gradient for the line that we want is 3. Whenever two lines are perpendicular, you flip the gradient and you change the sign. So instead of -3 or -1/3, it will become +3/1, which is same as +3. So we have the gradient for the line. We have a point. So now we can use those things and find the equation. So the equation of the line is y equal mx plus c. And the important things that you need is just the gradient and the y-intercept. So here's the thing. We have the gradient. We have a point on the line, which is x and y. So all we can do now is substitute those into the equation, and that will help us to find for c, because c is an important thing that we need. So we know this is x, this is y. So this will be, instead of y, we'll have 4 is equal to m, which we found to be 3, times x, which is 1 plus c. So hence this will be 4 is equal to 3 times 1 is 3 plus c. Take over the 3, we have 4 minus 3 is equal to c. So c would be equal to 4 minus 3 is 1. So the y-intercept is c. So now we can rack up these 3 marks. Easiest 3 marks you would ever get in CSEC to be y is equal to m, we found to be 3x plus c, which is the y-intercept, which we found to be 1. And that is it there. 3 marks. Boop, badap, bow. Boop, badap, bow. Easiest 3 marks you'll ever find. All right, so that's that. Next one. Another line is parallel to CD and passes through the point 0, 1. So we got the point that it passes through, and they told us it's parallel. So somebody tell me about the relationship with gradients when the lines are parallel. May I ask the chat? Right? What is the relationship between two gradients when the lines are parallel? All right, Jason is sharp with it. Jason Prasad, sharp with it. Nice, Jason. Well, I hope Jason is before to the answer to the question, because I know y'all young people, yeah, I like to say same. You know, if somebody sends something and you agree, you would say same, same, same. So I'll give Jason the benefit of the doubt, and he's telling me that the gradients are the same. All right, so the gradients are the same when lines are parallel. Reason why? Because if you got a parallel line here, you got a parallel line here, you know, the slope is the same. So that is why the gradients are the same. So another line AB is parallel to CD. So let's see what is the gradient for CD. Did we find the gradient for CD? Found the gradient for CD to be -1/3. All right, so the gradient is -1/3. All right, and we have a coordinate xy. So the general form is y equal mx plus c. So we know y would be 1, m would be -1/3 times x, which is 0, plus c. So -1/3 times 0, it simply be 0. So c is equal to 1. So we have our value for c to be 1. So now we can use that to write the equation, which will be y is equal to m, which is -1/3 x plus 1. And that is it for that year. All right, that is it for that. 2 marks, 3 marks, and I think anybody can rack up full marks for these kind of questions, right? They will always ask you, they will always tell you in some way or the other, they will incorporate the perpendicular lines, or they will incorporate parallel lines, right? They won't ask, they will change up how they ask it, but at the end of the day, that is what you should be looking for. You should be looking for parallel lines and perpendicular lines, the relationship and so on. You should be looking for those things, all right? That's why it's important to work these kind of questions in group so that you'll know what you're looking for, all right? They could change up the structure, but the way that you approach it will be the same. So that is that. So let's carry on. Next year. Rectangular PQRS has a diagonal PR, where P is a point -3, 10. R is 0.4, -4. Calculate the length of PR, the length of a line. The length, sometimes they call it the length of a line, should be line segment. Or they will tell you the distance between 2 points. The distance between 2 points or the length of a line segment or line. They all have the same formula. They all mean the same thing. And I think this formula is given to you. I'm not sure, but I think so. Anyways, the formula to find the length of a line. The formula is similar to the Pythagoras theorem formula. It's the square root of x1, x2, subtract x1 squared. Let's double check this. Plus y2 minus y1 squared. Similar to the Pythagoras theorem formula. And I think this will be given to you in the exam. I think so. I can probably double check and drop it if it's there. But I think it's there. So let's find the length of this line. So I have this is x, this is y, this is x, this is y. Good. So this will be the square root of, so I can call this x1, y1, x2, y2. So let's go. X2 would be 4. Subtract x1, it will be a negative 3 squared plus y2 is negative 4. Subtract y1, which is 10. And this would be squared. And then I work this out, square root of. So I want to take a time there. Square root of 4 minus negative 3. This will turn to 4 plus 3, which will give me 7 squared plus negative 4, subtract 10 will give me a negative 14. So that I squared. Hence, this will be the square root of 7 sevens 49, negative 14 squared. That will give me, I think, 289. Let me just double check it. Actually, 196. All right, let me just double check that. Yeah, 196, right? So plus 196. So when I add up these two, I'll get the square root of 49 plus 196. 245. I take the square root of 245. I'll end up with approximately 15.7 units. So 3 significant figures. 15.7, I rounded it off correctly. And that is the answer there. The length of the line is 15.7 units. All right. Good. That was a nice and easy 2 marks. Next one. For 3 marks, 3 big marks, determine the equation of the line PR. Equation of the line PR, which is the same thing we have here. So the thing is, when you want to find an equation of a straight line, they can either give you 2 points, and then you can use those 2 points to find the equation. Because remember, the important things that you need for the equation of the straight line, y equal mx plus c. The important things you need would be the gradient and the y-intercept. So we know once we are given 2 points, we can find the gradient. And then once we find the gradient, we can use any of the 2 points substituted here to get for c. So let's do that. Let's find the gradient first of all. So the gradient would be the change in y, which will be y2 minus y1 all divided by x2 minus x1. So the gradient would be, so y2 would be negative 4, subtract y1, which is 10, again, all divided by x2, which is 4, subtract x1, which is negative 3. And I can work this out. The gradient would be negative 14 over, so this would be a positive 7 because this would turn to plus. So the gradient would be equal to negative 14 divided by 7 would be a negative 2. So the gradient is a negative 2. So once I have the gradient, I can then use any one of these coordinates, any one of these here to find for the y-intercept. So I'll use 4, negative 4. So I know this x, this is y. So my equation now will be, instead of y is equal to mx plus c, I'll have negative 4 is equal to negative 2 times x, which is 4, plus c. Hence, this would be negative 4 is equal to 2 times negative 4 would be a negative 8 plus c. So c would then be equal to negative 4. This 8 is subtracting. When we take it to 4, it will add. So negative 4 plus 8, that would give us a value of a positive 4 is equal to c. So c is equal to 4. So I have my value for c. I have my gradient. Now I can wrap this up and write y is equal to m, which I found to be a negative 2x, plus c, which I found to be 4. And this will be my equation of straight line for 3 big, beautiful, easy marks. How are we looking? I have my students there. I have my students logged on. May I share the video? Share it live. How are we looking, chat? Let's carry on. So they brought functions. You see, actually, this is the same question, but functions at the bottom. So let's go. By the way, hope you are working before me. We try to finish before me and then compare answer. So let's go. F of x is equal to 3x plus 2 plus 1, and g of x is equal to x squared. So find in its simplest form an expression for f of x, well, f of x minus 2. So remember, let me write back the function. F of x is equal to 3x plus 1. So remember I said whatever is in this bracket, that is what you're replacing x with. So they want us to find f of x minus 2. So I'm replacing x with whatever is in this bracket. So instead of 3 times x, I'll have 3 times x minus 2 plus 1. So this would then be distributive law again. 3 times x would be 3x. 3 times negative 2, that will give us a negative 6 plus 1. So this would be 3x. So negative 6 plus 1 would be at negative 5. So this would be the answer here for that, for 2 marks. Remember, whatever's in the bracket right now, outside the bracket, in the bracket, that is what you're replacing x with. So they have it slightly different here now. So they want us to find g of 3x plus 2 plus 10. So I know g of x is equal to x to the second power. So remember, whatever is in the bracket, that is what you're replacing x with. So if I want to find g of 3x plus 2 plus 10, so whatever is in this bracket, that is what I'm replacing x with. I put this emphasis on that, right? So this will be 3x plus 2 squared. So that's what I'm replacing x with. And because the add-on is 10 here, I have to add on that to the function. So I'm not replacing x with that though. I'm just putting it with the function. Remember, the x is squared, so whatever is in the bracket will also square. All right, but I'm not putting I'm not putting 10 to be squared. Because 10 is not in the bracket, but I still have to add it on to the function. So once again, distributive law again. So I have 3x plus 2 squared. So this will be 3x plus 2 multiplied by 3x plus 2 plus 10. So if you don't know to use it, distributive law, you're in some serious trouble for this exam, right? If you don't know to use it, distributive law, you're in some serious trouble. See how many questions the distributive law will come in? So I will work this out and I'll have 3, I'll take the forest storm multiplied by everything in this bracket. So I'll have 3x multiplied by 3x plus 2. And I put the plus 2, I multiply by everything here again. So plus 2 multiplied by 3x plus 2. And I add on the 10. And I distribute 3x times 3x would give us 3 3 is 9. X times x is x squared. 3x times 2 will give us plus 6x. 2 times 3x will give us plus 6x. 2 times 2 will give us plus 4 plus 10. And this would be 9x squared. 6x plus 6x would be 12x. 4 plus 10 would be plus 14. And that would be the answer for that function there. And that is that for that. All right. Nice and easy, 2 marks. So let's carry on. So this here, they brought back functions now. So we have f of x is equal to 2 minus 5x. H of x is equal to 5 to the x power. So they want us to find f of 4 for 1 mark. And there's a reason why this is 1 mark, because it's so easy. So f of 4, so we know this is the function f of x. So we'll have f of 4 will be equal to 2 minus 5. Instead of x, we'll have 4. This will be 2 minus 5 fours, 20. So 2 minus 20 would be a negative 18. All right, if you don't know to do that mentally, use a calculator. All right, don't take chances. So we rack up that 1 mark there, and then we carry on and find h of 0. So they told us h of x is equal to 5 to the x power. So h of 0 will obviously be 5 raised to the 0 power. And we know any base raised to the power of 0, any base raised to the power of 0 would be, let me ask in chat. Any base raised to the power of 0 is what, chat? All right. Limpy. Limpy is Limpy again with the thing. So any base raised to the power of 0 is 1, right? Any base raised to the power of 0 is 1. And I just think I should stick this in here because, I don't know, I just feel like it's getting a brainwave. So if I have, this is completely different from the question, right? I'm just sticking this in. If I have 3x raised to the power of 0, all right, I want to simplify this. What is this equal to? 3x raised to the power of 0, what is that equal to? I'm just sticking this in. This is not a part of this question. Let me see who will get this for us. All right, I see some answers. Try again. No correct answers yet. Man, I want or. I want one. Choose one. Choose one. Choose one. All right, see, Hadassah. Hadassah, is that? Anyways. So yeah, Hadassah is correct, right? Hadassah, is that you? Anyway, so yeah, the answer is 3, right? 3, because it's any base raised to the power of 0. So the base here is x. X is being raised to the power of 0. This is like if you have 3 times x, so 3 times x to the power of 0, this will turn into 1. So 3 times 1 is 3, right? That's how I should stick that in. I don't know. I don't know if probably something like this may come. So yeah. Okay. Okay, Hadassah, nice to have you. All right, this one, f of h of negative 2. So this is telling you that you're taking h of -2 and you're putting it inside the function f. So what we can do first, so we see h of x is equal to 5x. So if h of -2 would be equal to 5 raised to the -2 power. I know when a number is raised to the -2 power, you know, to get rid of the negative, it will be, this will turn into 1 over 5 raised to the +2 power. And this will be simplified to 1 over 5 to the second power will be the same as 25. So h of -2 is equal to 1 over 25. And then we're taking this function and we're putting it inside the function f. All right, so the function f is equal to f of x is equal to 2x, well, 2 minus 5x. So we're taking this function, this answer that we found here, and putting it inside of this function. So this will actually turn into f of 1 over 25. And that will be equal to 2 minus 5 times x. X would be 1 over 25. So this will actually be equal to 2. 5 times 1 over 25 would actually give us minus 5 over 25. Which will actually simplify to 5 ones 5. 5 into 25 is 5. So this will be 2 subtract 1 over 5. Which will give us, let me get this as a fraction, 2 subtract 1 over 5. I can make it work this mentally. 1 and 4 over 5. So this would be 1 and 4 over 5. So f, so we can end up by saying f h of -2 is equal to 1 and 4 over 5. This probably goes 2 marks, right? 2 marks. Nice and easy, 2 marks. Whenever you have inverse, not inverse, whenever you have composite functions and you have to find it at a specific value, you can find for this value for us, in this case, which is h of -2. Now you take that answer and you put it inside the other function, which is f. All right, that is a nice and easy way to do it. Then last, I'll wrap up around here now. So they want us to find f inverse of x. So let me get back the function f of x. F of x is equal to 2 minus 5x. So they want us to find f inverse of x. This is what 2 marks. Nice, it is 2 marks. So just now we learned how to get that. So f inverse of x, we know step 1, we replace f of x with y. So y is equal to 2 minus 5x. Next step, we interchange the x and the y. We switch those two. So this will be x is equal to 2 minus 5y. And then last but not least, we make y the subject. So we can take over this 2 for us. Since it's added, now we take it over the subtract. So we'll have x minus 2 is equal to -5 over, well, 5y. So a smart thing, I'll work this out and then I'll show you another way that we can do this as well. So as you can see, this -5 is multiplied, and we take it over the divide, so we'll have x minus 2 all divided by -5 is equal to y. Hence, we can say f inverse of x is equal to x minus 2 all divided by -5. So this is one answer that we can get. We can also work it like this. We can also work it like, let me continue from this step, which is x is equal to 2 minus 5y. We can also work this question like this. I can take over this minus 5y, and this will become x plus 5y is equal to 2. And then I can take over this x, it will become 5y is equal to 2 minus x. Then the 5 is multiplying, I can take it over, it will divide, so I'll have y is equal to 2 minus x all over 5. And hence I'll have now f inverse of x is equal to 2 minus x over 5. Both of these here are the same thing, right? This is just as if you divide this negative by at the top there, but both of these answers are the same, right? The second one is just a simpler version to this one that we have. But either way, you should get your full marks if you work it either ways. That's both of the answers are the same, right? This x minus 2 all divided by 5 this is as if you divide this negative here by this positive, this will become negative, and this will become positive. And if I switch it wrong, I'll have 2 minus x over 5, right? Which is the same thing as this. And last question for the day now. Last question for the day. And then I'll take some questions in the chat. I'll take some, random questions that you want. So they told us f of x is equal to a plus bx. They want us to determine the values of a plus b. So all this is telling us we need to do is put the function f inside the function f. And then I work it out. It will look like this, but instead of a, I'll have a value for a. And instead of b, I'll have a value for b. And then I'll get those values for the answer. So I have the function f again. Let me just paste it. So this is the function f. So I'm taking ff of x. So ff of x will be equal to 2 minus 5. Now instead of x, I'm taking this function and I'm putting it inside the same function. So I'm just replacing x with the entire function. So this will be 2 minus 5x. And then this will be 2. So negative 5 times 2 will give us a negative 10. Negative 5 times negative 5x will give us a plus 25x. And then deal with the like terms. So this will be 2 minus 10 will be a negative 8 plus 25x. So f of x is equal to that. But I'm not done there. Hence, I'll say, so let me bring down back the thing now. So once again, we see a will be that value there, and b will be the 25. Since I can say a is equal to negative 8, and b is equal to 25. That is my answer there for how many marks? By 3 marks. Wow, wow, wow. Easiest 3 marks you'll ever see in CSEC, right? Easiest 3 marks you'll ever see. And that is it for this afternoon. How long did we go? Hour and a half. I think that is enough. I think that's we touched on most of the things that you want to touch on for functions. You can go and practice the others with the things that you learned. So let me see how was it, folks? How was it? Good. Join us back on the 8th to wrap up. I'll take a few questions in the chat. Let me see what's going on. I'll give you a couple minutes to type anything in the chat. Hungry. Wonderful. Wonderful. Already, I think, for this exam. If you had to rate your readiness as a percentage, what percentage would you give your readiness? Given the exam got, I think somebody said we got 40 days, right? What percentage would you give your readiness? Or is this old past? It was like 2015. So is old past like 2015 harder to work than the recent ones? Nah, man, similar level of difficulty. Right? Similar level of difficulty. 90%, similar level of difficulty. Why is it 50%, 90%? Why is it 100%? Anyways, y'all take care. Best wishes in practice. Happy Easter. Happy Good Friday. Fly your kites in wide open spaces. And best wishes. And see you back on the 8th. I think 8 is the last day I'll come live for now. Probably I'll come back on next time before the exam, but I'll see you on the 8th. Any suggestions on what I should look at on the 8th? 75%, 0.000 raised to the 20. Okay. 100%, Bonita is saying nice. So why is it so simple for you? Why is it so simple for me? Because I've been practicing maths very long. Right? When I wrote maths, I got a grade 1. And I only got a grade 1 because 1, I use lots of common sense in the exam. Because I always encourage my students to use common sense. And 2, I practice a lot, right? I practice lots of paper 1s and paper 2s. And that is the key. There's no magic to pass any maths. All you need to do is, practice, right? Vectors and matrices, Ethan, I'll take you up on that, hopefully. All right, I'll take you up on that. Vectors and matrices. Maybe I'll take you up on that, right? And as y'all take care, see y'all on, well, best wishes in your practice.